Hey, what's happening? Jason Woodland here with Always the Journey TV, continuing right along with these really fun and amazing interviews. Right now, we are on interview number 17. So we just launched Always the Journey TV about 3 weeks ago now, and it's already picking up some steam, and we're having a great time. And I wanted to thank you again very much for spending the time to watch these really fun interviews and getting to learn about people in the community and about what they do for their work, their business, their art, their side hustles, all the cool things. I love talking to people who are ultra passionate about what they do. And I've got someone on that's going to be talking to me today that's extremely passionate about what he does. And I'm going to jump into that here in just a quick moment. But I did want to give a small business shout out today to our friends down at Freewheeler Pizza, located in downtown Salt Lake City at 150 South 400 East, and that's Salt Lake City. It's diagonally across the street from Anthony's Antiques, also a local favorite for sure. So anyway, go down, say what's up to Freewheeler, pick up some pizza for takeout. They do an amazing job, and they've been around since about 1977. In its entirety. So they've got a lot of legacy and history here in Salt Lake City. So anyway, my dear friend Rod McKenzie is who we're going to be talking to today. Rod lives here in Utah. He has been married to his wife, Liz, since 1991, and they have 6 children. Professionally, Rod has helped tens of thousands of people start and grow businesses since 1994. He has authored 3 books. One of them is Are You Ready to Start a Business? The second, The Purpose of Purpose. And I should have just known because I've got the book right here. So I've actually got a couple of his books, but I have this one handy right here, and it's really fun to read and learn more about what he does to help people. And his other book is The Story Formula, of which I've got a copy of as well. Rod is a storyteller and is an expert at getting people to tell their stories. And that is so imperative, especially for marketing these days, because people are wanting to know about the story behind the person or the organization rather than just seeing the brand out there. They want to know they want to become part of that story. Rod's created hundreds of storytelling sales publications that have sold over 82 million copies. Which have helped sell hundreds of millions of dollars of products throughout the year. Now, as chief story coach for an organization that is his own business, Story Changes Everything. He focuses on entrepreneurs who are stuck and don't know what the next step to grow their business. He helps those stuck entrepreneurs get extreme clarity through a purpose-driven story. A few fun facts about Rod. He loves convertibles. So that's a lot of fun. I'd like to see his convertible Lamborghini soon. He is passionate about purpose. He will do about anything for his family, and he loves a good mystery. So ultra excited to have my friend Rod today. Without further ado, please allow me to introduce my friend Rod McKenzie. What's happening?
Hey, Jason, how you doing?
I'm doing unbelievable. What's going on with you?
Hey, just living the life, living the COVID life, right?
That's what I'm saying. Gosh.
I got my banner here to cover up my unfinished basement. So, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, get the office in the house, and this is where we're at.
Exactly. It's fun because, I've been working out of the house quite a bit. I still have my office in Holiday, as you know, but since my wife has been based out of the house, it's been sort of fun just to see her throughout the day and see our dogs and hang out. But I get to play the same game as others where all of a sudden in the middle of a business call, my Pomeranian starts screaming out the window or something fun. So,
it's been pretty cool. I calculated it out one time, and over my 26 years now in business, I've worked out of my house for over half that.
Oh, really?
So I've always had a home office. I've always been able to do stuff out of my house. And honestly, one of the things that I love is, back when my oldest daughter, who's 25 now, when she was in school, she would come in every day at 3:00. I'd know that I just would have to take a break from work. because she'd just come in and sit down and talk with me and just, have fun with just hearing her day. And my youngest now, who's 10, so my oldest is a boy who's 27, and my youngest is 10, still happens every day they come home from school. And fortunately, where we're at, our kids are still going to school. So, it's a good thing. And I actually have very few cases in their schools. So I'm actually pretty grateful for that. They've been pretty resilient.
Well, that's great. Very good to hear. And yeah, you're right. It's funny because throughout the years, I've never liked the idea of working from home because I didn't feel like I was out in the wild, so to speak, and doing business stuff out in the wild. But since I've been home, pretty consistently, of course, just like everybody over the last 7 some odd months,
Yeah.
You create those new routines and you're able to sort of lockstep and stay productive. And I've been wildly productive. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. It's been, my business has actually accelerated, and which is fantastic as well.
Yeah, that is. I'm thankful to hear that. So Rod, we've known each other now for a handful of years. We met in a business mastermind group, and it's always been fun to learn about your history and about what you do to work with everything from small business all the way up to large scale. Really, you've even worked in the Fortune 500 arena, from what I understand. And I want to know, Rod, what has inspired you to do what you do?
Well, so let's go back a couple years, actually to 1988, right? So I've got a couple more years under my belt than you do, but I was at a bookstore. A friend invited me to go to a bookstore and hear a guy talking about this tape series and these principles that he was learning. And it was actually on Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I think you got a book right by you. You showed me that earlier. But he talked about that, and that kind of just really got me thinking about a lot more strategic and high-level personal traits. And so I've always been a high-level thinker. I love to look at the 30,000-foot view of just about anything. And so I've been fascinated by organizational behavior, how organizations behave. And that organization could be one. It could be yourself. It could be a large organization. So in college, I started off in business. Then I went to computer science. Then I went to psychology. Then I went back to business. Then I went back to computer science. So I ended up with a computer science degree and minors in business and psychology. You know how things end up happening like that.
Yeah.
So I started working in tech right out of college in January of 95. Got hired during a deep hiring freeze, during one of those economic slow times.
Yeah.
And I only lasted for 18 months in the corporate world because I would look at things and realize that, working in a company with 5,000 people, my opinion didn't really matter. I just was supposed to do the work that I had and didn't really matter what happened. But the great thing was I had something to fall back on. I had a side hustle, if you will.
Yeah.
And so my last semester in college, not only did I, have to finish my college classes, but I also started a business. And I developed a product, launched it at a convention, and just spent a lot of time working on that. So finally in August or the end of July of 96, I was able to give my notice, and I haven't been back into a corporation since. I've been doing my own thing. So it's been 26 years. And really my business was about helping people tell their stories about product experiences.
Yeah.
So I've interviewed over 1,000 people, and, and it goes from everyday people to medical professionals to business professionals, CEOs, all across the board. And I created hundreds of different storytelling sales tools. So when I say storytelling, I actually told people stories about their experiences. So I became got really, really good at helping people pull information out of people and helping them explain what they do. And not only that, but helping them share really what products have done for them. So if you know anything, testimonials are the biggest thing that there is in business. A testimonial is more powerful than anything else that could be. There's no product information or anything that can compare to it. So my sales tools were direct response publications. I made a 4-page newspaper. And in that newspaper, what I did was I told personal stories, made like 20 or so short stories, and then wrapped it all into a big overall story.
Oh, interesting.
And so I was helping people. These were used in direct response tools, anywhere from hot tub companies to direct response, or direct selling professionals to tax organizations. I mean, I worked across the board. I even worked with an online grocery startup where this was before today, this was 10 years ago when somebody was selling groceries out of a warehouse. Yeah. And a little 40,000 square foot warehouse couldn't handle the business. So they didn't last very long.
Yeah.
Because they were shipping all over the country. So I created systems to help people grow their business using my sales tools. And when I was coaching all these different people, I really learned about, business models, structures, different tax advantages, and all kinds of systems within the business, and learning how to systemize businesses. And I did a lot of consulting. So I really helped people get going. So then in 2014, I kind of branched out even further, and I helped people create business models. I helped people create pitches, working on not just getting funding, but being able to present their business in a way where people understood it.
Yeah.
And, if you watch Shark Tank, I love Shark Tank, not because everything is real on there. I mean, a lot of the deals they say they get I know several companies and several people that got deals on Shark Tank, and when they ended up not getting fulfilled.
Yeah.
So, but I love it to where the sharks can sit there and see someone and realize that they have no clue about what they're talking about, or they don't know their numbers. They don't know whatever they're doing. I mean, I helped a friend. He had a baking business, and I traded for a couple of my kids' wedding cakes, and so I did some consulting for him. And I asked him, what are your numbers? And he realized that he didn't have the numbers to stay profitable, and he didn't realize how much he was feeding his business.
Yeah.
So he ended up doing an entire pivot with his business, which was really helpful for him because he got out of making minimum wage, owning the business, having to work so hard. So I created business models, and I was amazed at how many people just flat out ignored the why of business. I mean, there's the Startup Business Owners Manual is by Steve Blank. I'm butchering the name right now, but it's about a 500-page book. It's, large. And the word purpose is only mentioned 4 times in the entire book. It's all about product validation. It's all about understanding, your lean canvas model, your business model canvas, and understanding all these things. And I realized just how challenging it was for people to run a business and not really be passionate about it. I have a friend who he wanted to invest in a business, so he bought a dog grooming franchise. Mm-hmm. It was the #1 franchise in the country, as rated by all the franchise magazines. Best return on investment and everything. But he hated dogs. And so I couldn't understand. So like 5 years later, they exited the business, but they they got their money back that they initially invested, but what about the 5 years they had the business?
Exactly.
And so not being passionate about what you're doing is really a challenge. And I got a quote that I'll share with you later on. Yeah. But that led me to write my first book, Are You Ready to Start a Business? I wanted to help people get off the ground. I wanted to help them overcome their major mistakes. And the #1 was not knowing what their own personal purpose was in life, not knowing. Now, I believe that your purpose in life is what makes you happy. I believe that we're not here to be miserable. I believe that we're here to find joy and happiness on the earth. But I believe also with the 7.5 billion people on the earth, I believe there's 7.5 billion different purposes. None of us are the same as somebody else. We're all unique individuals. And I do this for someone's entire life, not just their business, because their business is just one of the parts of their life. If you're not happy in your business, that makes a challenge. But if you're not happy at home or with your family, with your friends or whatever, you don't know what brings you happiness, it's hard to be happy anywhere. So I created a process. It's a 2 to 3 hour process where I can help anyone discover their personal purpose in life and what brings them joy. And it's amazing. That is actually one of the most amazing things that I do. And so that led me to combine purpose and business. And so I wrote my second book, The Purpose of Purpose. Yeah. And it's teaching people how to live a purpose-driven life. And so that kind of leads me to, I think, the next question you're going to ask, which is tell me about the business, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of my background.
Yeah, I want to know very specifically about how the business works. So, I mean, if someone watching this video, I want to know, can you work with an individual? Can you work with,
right?
What is the smallest you can work with, and what's the largest you can work with? And then just about the business. That'd be great if you can expand on that.
Yeah, I work with, right now I'm working with an incubator of women-owned businesses. Mm-hmm. They're all solopreneurs, and some of them are in the conceptual stage. Some of them are in the revenue stage. I also have worked with biotech companies, people that run a photography business. One was a crypto education firm where they taught people about cryptocurrencies and also blockchain, and they're an education firm. So I work with companies of any, I prefer to work with smaller companies, but what I do could have tremendous impact with larger organizations. I just personally love the startup. I love the conceptual in the organization, and I loved, my personal purpose in life for me is I thrive when I look at someone smile and know that I contributed to it.
Nice.
And you see that a lot more when you work with smaller companies and work with individuals and entrepreneurs. But even in large companies where there might be 5 or 6 different C-levels, if I can help them all understand their own personal purpose in life, and then equate that to how to create passion for their business, which is kind of what I want to go through here. I want to show you my process, but I really love the startup, the early revenue stage business, the entrepreneur, the conceptual. So that's where I like to work. Now, let me kind of tell you about how this all comes together. So I figured out how to combine my storytelling experience, my business experience, and my purpose passion. And that's when I wrote my third book, The Story Formula. It teaches people all the steps on how to create purpose-driven story. So I believe that the cornerstone of the foundation of a company is the personal purpose of each founder. So Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, one of the most powerful books. If you don't know his story, he was in a concentration camp watching people die around him, and he had the epiphany that they could take everything away from him except from his mind.
Yep.
And so he kind of defined success better than I've seen it in just about anywhere.
Yeah.
He said, for success, like happiness, cannot be pursued, which that was kind of an epiphany for me. And I just found this quote a few days ago.
Oh, interesting.
It says, it must ensue, and it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself. So I'm going to read that again. For success, like happiness, cannot be pursued. It must ensue, and it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself, or as the byproduct of one's surrender to a person other than oneself. So in other words, when Mark Cuban on Shark Tank or out in the open says, you should not follow your passion, Viktor Frankl completely disagrees with that. He says that you're only going to really find true success, like happiness, when you're dedicated to a cause greater than oneself, greater than yourself.
Yeah.
Or when you surrender to a person other than oneself, maybe to a God, And so I love that, where it really shows that your purpose is, if you don't know what brings you joy, how can you really find success? Right. If you don't know what brings you passion, how can you really find success? So that's the cornerstone of everything I do. And so what I do is I create a foundation for the company. Mm-hmm. And I start that with the personal purpose of each founder. Then I discover what the pain that they're trying to solve. And I do that in conjunction with their big idea. So in other words,
Okay.
I call it an escape from pain. There was a story about a guy about 8 years ago, I think, back in the early 2010s, who was out in the wilderness and he had a boulder fall on his arm. And he was out there for for several weeks. And finally he said, either I'm going to die or I'm going to cut my arm off. Well, he chose to cut his arm off with his pocket knife.
Wow.
I can't imagine that.
Couldn't imagine that either.
It makes me cringe just thinking about it.
Yeah, seriously.
But he had a pain that was so severe that literally his life depended on it.
Right.
And so people really don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
They just don't. And so if you don't have a pain that is severe, you're not going to be able to create a business that really will be successful. You'll be a commodity. Now, this is really, so you have your escape from pain, and then you have your big idea, which is usually how to solve that pain. And when you have your own purpose intersect with a big idea, that's where passion comes from. Because you see people that are passionate. You're a passionate guy. Yep. I mean, I personally couldn't get passionate about life insurance. That's just not me, right?
Right.
But I am amazed at how passionate you are about insurance and about helping people. There's a lot more. It's not just insurance. And I know that you have personal stories that go way beyond the level. And so you're driven by that. But that's not my passion.
Right.
And it shouldn't be.
Right.
We all need to have different success points there. So you have your escape from pain, your big idea, and then why are you in business? Simon Sinek, I think we've all heard the start with why, the golden circle. Yep. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Exactly.
Okay. And so if you understand your business purpose, then now you're on track to where you can actually be passionate about your business, can be passionate, not just you. And then the last part of the foundation is how you define success intrinsically for your business.
Okay.
So many people just have the financials. Don't get me wrong. Those are essential. Because if you're not successful financially, it doesn't matter what the intrinsic purpose is.
Correct.
But why are you in business? And then what does success mean? So that's the fulfilling of your business purpose. So I help people. I start with creating that foundation. Mm-hmm. And I was working with the financial planner, and he said in 20 years of being a financial planner, in my 6 hours of working with him to cover this, he had more clarity in 6 hours than he did in 20 years.
Wow. That is impactful. My goal is to elevate and inspire business owners and leaders through clarity, extreme clarity, and create a purpose-driven story. So the foundation is the foundation of your story as well. If you look at this, you got to have, a pain in a story. You got to have a plot, which is your big idea, right? So, but I'm not going to go too much into that. I don't tell Jack and Jill run up the hill stories. I have a business create their foundation, who they are. Then after you have the foundation, now you got to understand your clients. So you hear of the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. It's a very common term. There's other companies out there that talk about the hero's journey. I use the hero's journey. The entire part about the hero's journey that people don't understand in business is that they're not the hero. Right.
Their client is the hero.
Exactly.
If you put yourself and do everything from your point of view, then that is absolutely missing the mark. So
totally agree. In fact, there's this book I just wanted to share just really quick. The Breakthrough Company, and it talks about the concept of crowning the customer.
Right.
So yeah, along with what you're talking about.
So yeah, it's a perfect example. So the challenge is people, with people not knowing how much you know, that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
Is you got to really understand who your client is. So we start off by really, it's not just a normal, what does your ideal customer look like the standard way, but we go through a full behavioral and analysis, not just demographics. But if you don't understand the behaviors, the emotions, and everything that back up your client, then wow, how can you even know who your client is? How can you relate to them?
Yeah.
So we start there, and then I have by telling so many stories, I put it into a formula. I'm a computer scientist after all. I'm a logical thinker, but yet I'm a storyteller. I hated English in high school with a passion. My sister was a valedictorian of our high school, and the English teacher just loved her. I took one of her bad papers, which was an A- paper. That's one of her bad papers, and I copied it exactly, except in my handwriting.
Yeah.
And she got an A-, and I got a B- over D for content over grammar. And so that tells me how subjective it is. And I'm a logical guy, and I hate subjectivity. And so I had to create a formula to tell stories. So we go from knowing who your ideal customer is, understanding the particular characteristic and behavior, then understanding what the escape from pain is. But with the escape from pain, I also want to know what feelings they're having. When I interview people, I always ask them, how did that make you feel? Because one of the parts that I haven't really talked about is I've studied how the language is processed in the brain, and not just written language, but also visual. There's 8 different language centers in the brain where we receive information and process it.
Yeah.
Only 2 of them have to do with words. And so if you want to communicate, they actually did a functional MRI on storytelling. So they took a functional MRI, which is it's a movie basically of your brain and how it acts when someone was telling stories. And then they took a functional MRI when somebody listened to the story. Now, if you just use words, they didn't behave at all similar. Only a little part of the person's brain who was listening actually fired. But when they were telling a story, then the brains behaved almost identically. So, in other words, if I want to express something to you, Jason, let's talk about a fictitious app. Let's talk about a video app for your phone. And I could tell you, it does 4K resolution. It has all these different, highlights about this. It's messaging app. It has, and I could go down the bullet list, right? So if I say it's easy to use, or it's easy to use, it has, this button and that button for this feature or that feature. That's how most tech companies describe their apps.
Right.
But if you look at Apple, I'll come back to that in a second. But if I were to tell you on the app, it says I use my messaging app, and when I talk to my wife, she's there in clarity, and I feel her feelings, and I enjoy her beauty. I don't have to say it's high resolution,
right?
Because I'm telling that story, and you're imagining that as I said it. You actually pictured that, you talking to your wife, and so I'm able to present information in story form and have you see it from my point of view. Then if I'm authentic and if I'm real, then you'll trust my opinion. If I'm not authentic, if I'm not real, I can't BS you. People's BS meters go off so fast. They know when you're trying to fool them. So don't try to do that. But if I am authentic, then you're able to understand what I say. So I've got to, Apple with their iPod. I don't know if you remember the very first commercial. It was a person dancing. They were a black silhouette with a different colored background. The color background, solid color, it changed. But the iPod was white. The headphones were white. The earplugs were white. And they were dancing around. And the song was Jet by Jet, Are You Gonna Be My Girl? And I remember that. That was 15 years ago or 18 years ago or whatever it is. That's a long time ago. But that's how powerful that story was. They didn't talk about how, you could throw 1,000 billion MP3s on it. They had a guy dancing, and then they had a few words on the screen. Then you went out and looked up all the features later. So story sells way better than facts and figures. But come back to this. Right. So when you have the escape from pain, what is the pain that you're solving or that people have that you want to help? What are the feelings associated with it? Who are their enemies? Every story has an antagonist. It's video messaging app, that the fictitious app that I'm talking about, that enemy could be your phone. That enemy could be your wife, who gets mad because you always drop the calls. I mean, and the video is all fuzzy, so she can't even hardly see you, so she gets frustrated. There's a lot of enemies out there. It's a person, place, or thing most of the time. And then, but what are the feelings that your customer has about those enemies? Then what events trigger these pains? And what feelings does your customer have with these events? And then what are the what does a promised land look like for your customer? What's the arrive to success point? And what feelings do you want them to have? Once you understand your customer, then you can help transform them. And then that is, what is your solution? What feelings do you want your customer to have with your solution? What are the features? What does your product do? What do you want your customer to feel when they hear about your features?
Right.
What are the benefits? Feature is what you do. Benefits is how it makes them feel. So what are the benefits of your product, and how does that make them feel? How do you want that to make them feel? And then the last part is, what is your uniqueness? If you're not unique, you're a commodity. You compete on price.
Right, exactly.
All these monitors out there, if you get one, the features that you like, they're a commodity. If I'm sitting here looking at monitors on my desktop, it could be an app on the phone, whatever it is. It could be life insurance. The life insurance salesman, what makes you unique is you. You sell the same product that a couple of other people sell, right?
There's at least 3 other people in the United States that do life insurance.
Yeah, just at least. But why do people come to you? It's because you're unique. That uniqueness could be you. It could be your personal stories that you tell. It could be, it could be all kinds of those things. So that transformation process. So in all, we've got about 17 different boxes that I fill out in this formula.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you put information in any of those boxes, you can create the foundation for your entire company. You can also then create stories around each individual pain or different things for marketing or advertising. I'll tell you, I've worked with branding agencies. I do for what they do, except I don't do logos, right? But I develop the story that the branding agencies do for a fraction of the price. So the story formula writes stories for videos, anchor videos, explainer videos. Everyone thinks it's just branding, but it's used in, if you have a story that is the same across all your channels, whether it be print, social media, TV, word of mouth, whatever it is. I mean, I can help someone create a killer elevator pitch and have their 30-second pitch be so dramatic and so clear that it just floors people. So you can use that in networking meetings. A 10-slide pitch deck, for investment. When you storyize those, I like the word storyize. I made that up. When you storyize those, it turns a regular pitch into a emotional pitch. Emotional pitch makes the money. What's his name? He wrote the book Story. Wow. I can't believe that. Robert McKee. Okay. He used to be a USC film professor. USC has the best film school in the world. And he took storytelling and turned it into a business. He helped a guy back in the dot-com boom, near the end of the dot-com boom in the late 1990s, early 2000s. The guy was sitting next to him on a plane, and he said, I've got my story here, or I've got my pitch here, but I can't get funding. And Robert McKee taught himself, well, turn it into a story like a screenplay and see what happens. After he did that, 90 days, he had triple funding. So, I mean, it's dramatic in business.
Right.
But so organizational structure, could you imagine understanding the pains that your staff goes through, your customer service department, and understanding how, as a leadership team, you can actually help them understand what they're going through to where they believe you, and that you could help transform them and transform their department. It can work inside the company. Entire Jane.com, it's a deal a day site. A few years ago, they converted their entire business to run on story, and they just took off. all kinds of way. So the key is being driven by purpose, and it's being, keeping your focus. It helps avoid distractions, because when you know where you're headed, if you have a purpose for your business, don't get me wrong, pivots are important, but it really, if you're going to pivot your business, you better do it with real intent. You better really understand what you're doing. So understanding your entire strategy. See, the story formula can help you develop an entire strategy for your overall business. That's what I love seeing the light go on in an entrepreneur's mind, is when they get that story down, when they get that overall strategy. And so I'm helping a lot of people with that right now. Nice. But that kind of gives you an idea of what I do.
Yeah.
And how I go through and I help people. I do it through coaching. I used to do a lot of consulting where I'd go in and do the work.
Right.
But I've been doing this for 26 years. And since I love seeing that light go on in somebody else's mind, I'd much rather teach them. And, I've sold 82 million publications, which I still can't believe I've done that.
That's pretty awesome.
82 million of anything is wow. But,
it is.
And I got to kind of just pinch myself, but what I really love to do is see that light go on in somebody's mind so that they can do it for themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I love coaching. So that's, my website is storycoaching.co.
Yep.
So I love to come in, take somebody through, get the foundation set, help them understand their clients, help them know how to transform. And then I go on a consistent, ongoing basis, making sure that they get that extreme clarity, not just for their foundation, but also to keep that clarity going. So I provide ongoing coaching and, regular monthly coaching for people. And I'm working on some other processes to where I can do this online, to where people can go through the process. But right now I'm just doing this in person or over Zoom or, whatever it be. So,
okay, cool. So as far as geographics, then, if you can do it through Zoom, that means virtually anywhere in the world, right?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So that's good. And then as far as like someone watching this video, who would you say would be the perfect sort of client or referral for your type of business? Is it going to be the solopreneur? Is it going to be the small business of, 10 to 50 people? What do you want to see there?
I love anything from the conceptualizing of a business to helping someone. Listen, if you spend a little bit of money up front before you start, the number one reason businesses fail is because nobody wants or needs their product.
Yeah.
42 out of 101 postmortems done where the number one reason business failed was because nobody wanted or needed their product. 2 was cash flow. 3 was the wrong team. And 4 was they got out competed. All of those are poor business insight. If you can get that all set up front, then you can start a business that has a great opportunity to be successful. So I like to work with anywhere from the conceptual up to about the $20 million range.
Okay.
Annual sales.
Okay, nice. And is the website the best way to get a hold of you if someone wanted to learn more about your company and get a hold of you directly?
My website, it has information to contact me, but also you can email me, rod@storycoaching.co, or you could also set up a call with me, which is just storycoaching.co/call. It'll take you to my online calendar to where you can just book a time with me. I'd be happy to sit down and talk with just about anyone about what they're doing with their current business, an idea for a business, and see how I can help them.
Okay, cool. And do you do a free consultation to figure out if you guys are a good fit?
You bet.
Okay, awesome. And then as far as your books go, where's the best way for people to actually buy your books?
On my website, there's links to all 3 books. I'm on Amazon. I honestly don't really push sales of my books, but what I do is I publish them on Amazon. I use them to help people understand how to do things.
Okay.
So if you look up my name, Rod McKenzie Jr., JR, you can find them on Amazon or by the direct title, or just go to my website and that will allow you to link right over to Amazon.
Okay, awesome. So in closing, I'd like to ask what one of your favorite quotes, favorite songs, or both is.
Okay. So my favorite quote is actually by Stephen Covey. Surprised?
Nice.
I was he gave a little seminar and there were only about 30 of us there. This was, probably just 2 years before he passed on. And he said this, and it just hit me upside the head. He said, leadership is communicating people's worth and potential so clearly that they are inspired to see it in themselves. It's the best definition of leadership that I've ever heard.
I like that.
And songs, I am a Tears for Fears fan.
Nice.
I've actually, when I write a book, they're my soundtrack.
Oh, really? That's cool.
And there's so many of their songs, but actually one of the things that I just love is I love a good rock song. So maybe Van Halen.
Oh yeah.
And with the top down in the convertible, I was actually doing 146 in Nevada, 137 with the top down. And the Mustang that I had, this was back in like 2000, and the Mustang that I had didn't have roll bars. And so I would have been dead meat. But I was just flying, and a good just guitar rock song. So something like Panama from Van Halen. Or then you go back to Eruption with Eddie Van Halen solo.
Oh, yeah.
Tribute to Eddie Van Halen here.
Oh, yeah.
But just some of those good, just hardcore guitar songs. I'm not into screamer metal, but I just love good old classic guitar rock.
Nice.
So, I guess that gives you a couple ideas there. But my favorite band of all time probably is Tears for Fears.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, this has been a sincere pleasure, Rod.
I hope I didn't go too long.
No, we're great. I definitely appreciate it. And we've been able to learn a lot about what you do to help businesses, both small, medium, and large. We've learned about the power of storytelling, the power of authenticity. I mean, there's been a lot of really great lessons here. So, wrapping it up, though, Rod, sincerely appreciate you being on the show today.
Hey, thank you so much, Jason. And I love what you're doing. I mean, like you said, we've known each other for quite a while, and it's fun to see what you do, and you always are coming up with something different, and I just love it.
I appreciate it very much. I definitely appreciate that support. So I'm gonna let you hang out in the green room for just a quick sec while I wrap up, if that's cool with you.
You bet.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate you being on.
Take care.
All right, there you have it, Rod McKenzie. He's the storycoaching.co. Check it out here. Go to his website, learn more. There's been a lot of really great lessons on this video today, so hopefully you were able to learn some fun stuff. And I sincerely appreciate you tuning in. Please subscribe to the Always the Journey TV channel. It's actually just under my name right now, Jason Woodland. So please subscribe, throw us a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, and I wish you a wonderful holiday week. Take care, my friends.